Three and get the bird gang in here. The Philly alert is right now.
Let's go. I can see my future and it's looking bright. Not used to the light, I was born at night. But I'm used to a fight, not a new sight. Left, right, everybody roll the dice. No regrets when I finally leave. I'll finally be the final, be a better me. My destiny is to invest in me. A quest to be the best, yeah, legend free. From a world that's been feeling so wounded. I got dreams and they feel so lucid. I got dreams that they think are stupid. It's alright, sit back cause I do this. I don't take this life for granted, my mind's expanding. It's time for a fight, command of the war. I want more, yeah, I said I want more. Took a life full of hooks, time to even the score.
Life left, so I gotta make it count. Too bloody ends, work hard just to build it now. Three more doubts in my head, try to tear me down. But I won't let it show. Falling, scaring me alone through the struggle now. 5 toes tangled off the edge, don't look down. 6 feet deep, what will I leave when I'm underground? I don't know.
Let's go.
But watch me go.
Take a deep breath in, can you feel that? That's 1 in a billion, wait, 1 in a trillion. A life that's been given, a life that's worth living. I don't wanna miss it, I'll get up and get it. Cause I got a vision, I got ambitions.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Philly Alert. We got my boy Chris McPherson in the building. How you been, Chris? It's been a minute.
It has been a minute, man. We got training camp rolling here in South Philly. A lot going on. I can't believe the first preseason game is just a couple days away.
A couple days away, man. How you feeling about the Birds?
Feeling outstanding. You know, I've covered this team for over 20 years. And you don't want to get too high or too low throughout the process. But you can't help but be excited what you're seeing from the offense. And you start with the defense and just the talent they have on that side of the ball is going to set the floor so high. This defense has been outstanding. Flying around, falling. You talk about the pass rush. You got Q making interceptions, another one in practice today. Coop playing between safety and the nickel. He had an interception in practice today. Jalen Hunt's has been getting after. He's been feasting. You know, this defense will be so good, and it gives the offense such great looks day in and day out that once they get things rolling, and Sean Maney and Nick Sirianni get this program, you know, what they want, envision, installed here with the offense. It's something that's special is cooking's here. It truly is right now.
Yes, it is. Something special is definitely going on. Is it echoing right now, guys? You guys hearing echo? Is it got an echo? Let me know if you still hear the echo. He says echo. Who's echoing? Is everybody echoing? He says it's bad. Bad. Is everybody echoing? I don't hear echo. You guys hear echo?
I hear feedback when I'm talking. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I hear.
I don't know what that is, guys. Sorry about that. Oh, no, me? I'm echoing? Oh, that's... Hello? Trying a new mic here. My mic's not hooked up. Sorry about that, guys. We got to work with what we got tonight. But yeah, Chris, we got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. Let's start with Lane Johnson, man. One of the best tackles of our time. You know, he said he's calling it quits at the end of the season. What's your first take on that one?
Well, you said he's probably, which I would mean you probably say that it will be his last year, and he gets to have a farewell tour here. But Philly has been truly blessed. You go back to Runyon and Trey, and you got Jason Peters coming in. And then you bring on Lane Johnson, who's held it down since 2013. He redefined the right tackle position with what he was able to do from his toughness and athleticism. It used to be that you could hide with force on the one, and then with the ability that he has, you can't hide anymore. So it's made the right tackle position just as equally as important as the left tackle position, even though it's not the blindside protector for most quarterbacks. So what he's done in Philadelphia, and not just the accolades. You have the championships now. One of the 4 players to win 2 Super Bowls here. But also you factor in bringing mental health to the center stage. Well, how he's talking about those public battles that he's had. He has had such a remarkable Hall of Fame career, and it's just uniquely Philadelphia. He is such a Philadelphia player through and through. And I mean, the Eagles have just been fortunate that year in and year out that you just say, we have Lane Johnson, and the right tackle position is set, and you really don't need to worry about it. And you have Jordan Mailata on the other side, arguably the best bookend tackle duo in the league, and you see what happens when you don't have a top-tier offensive line. And you look at what happened last season with the injuries to Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens, and then Lane Johnson found out halfway through the season. So it's good to know that you have this year to prepare, and I think truly appreciate and celebrate just how good Lane Johnson has been. And hopefully Markel Bell, it's too early to say, but maybe he gets a year to learn from one of the all-time greats, similar to what Cam Jurgens did, and then you're able maybe to make that transition. But it was just very interesting to hear from Lane that this is how he wanted to, I guess, announce that maybe he's thought about the next stage, because every time before he always said, "Oh, I'll go through my contract. It'll be 2 years, 3 years," and he wanted to make a certain amount of years before he called it a career. So.
Yeah, and I heard him talk about his kid being 13 now, and he's been up there, year 16 or whatnot. And I think, Lane has been dealing with stuff, and I feel like, when you start talking about his parents, his kids, and just the off-the-field life, that's something that people got to understand. It's bigger than football. Your parents are only here once. You only get one round with them. If they're having kind of health issues, he's already a millionaire. He doesn't really need the money. I know he might still like playing, but sometimes you got to take a step back and just realize what's really important in life. And I think, if he did decide to retire at the end of this year, as long as he's healthy, plus he's been hurt a lot, he's been hurt a lot, maybe a game here, a couple games there, every season. He wants to make sure when he goes out, I think he wants to go out on top, still being one of the best. How do you feel about them leaving him off? I want to ask both of you guys that. How you guys feel about Lane not being on the top 100s? Like someone like him, sure, first ballot Hall of Famer, and they snuffed him. His peers snuffed him off the list. He didn't get the first team All Pro last year or Pro Bowl, and it's like I know he got hurt a little bit, but whenever he's playing, man, he's the best. There's not another tackle out there, and I feel kind of that's really disrespectful that they didn't have him on the top 100.
Byron, your thoughts?
Well, it's very disrespectful. We all know that Lane Johnson is a top 100 player. And anytime it's like they had it's like they have a secret vendetta against our East. We know that Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Jurgens, we know that we have one of the top offensive linemen and one of the top defensive linemen in the league, all of them across the board. We might have a question mark at guard, but overall, it's hard for me to see how they would just leave Lane Johnson off the top 100. Because when healthy, I mean, he's still top three at his position.
Yeah, I mean,
top.
it's the top 100. It's just how you did the year before, and he didn't finish the season, missed the final 7-8 games. So that's probably a reflection of where he finished in the standing. I mean, when they do this ballot, they go to each player, and I think you rank your top 20 guys, and they pretty much just kind of compile that amongst all the players in the league. So by the end of the year, by the end of the season, you probably kind of lose track of him just because he's not playing.
Yeah. But you think about that, though, Chris. That's one thing I had to say about that. Because I even think Jalen got snubbed a little bit. I think Quinyon Mitchell got snubbed a little bit. I think Saquon's about right. Some of these players that did make it, they might be in the right area. But I think Quinyon Mitchell, first team All-Pro. Cooper DeJean even, I know he was higher than Quinyon, which, is kind of crazy. But both of those guys need to be higher in terms of, like, top players in the league. I feel like everybody on the first team All-Pro, that's 22 spots. That should be like your top 22 players. Because those are literally the best players at your position. And we heard Lane talk about how now the voting is kind of going sideways, how a lot of these All-Pros and whatnot, they give up a lot of quarterback hits, a lot of quarterback pressures, and he's wondering why he's not on there when these guys that's giving, quarterbacks getting hit in the mouth left and right are on there. And I kind of agree with him. Like, I think we're kind of getting weak with these rewards and these freaking lists to the point where we're letting anybody, be top 100s, top 10s. And if you really want to break it down, it should be the best players at every position, depending on, like, the skill level. So, like I said, the first team All-Pro, that should be automatically your first 22 people. The last 22 people, because those are the best players in the league at their position.
The one thing I would add about Lane, DJ, is the fact that the way that the offensive line was under Jeff South was those tackles were undeniable. You were not getting help whatsoever. So to do what they did week in and week out, knowing that they weren't getting any help whatsoever, meant that they had to be that much better, and that they were trusted to down in and down out to perform and not be able to get any help whatsoever. So I think that just accentuates how well Lane Johnson not just has been for the last 5 years or so. This is his entire career, because he played under this scheme his entire career. So it'll be very interesting to see as we go to this new offense with Nick Sirianni and Sean Mannion, where they're going to give the tackles a little bit of added help, if that's just going to make them look that much better now that they're getting the assistance, instead of just saying, we're going to put you on an island, not give you any help, forget about you, and just say, you know what, we got Lane, you got Mailata, we're good.
Yeah. Marquise Bell, like you said, we're going to see about that, and hopefully he get a full year of, training behind Lane, because I think that's another guy that's kind of getting underestimated. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get into some of these rookies, but the dude didn't give up a sack all last year. His team went to the national championship. So basically, he was the best left tackle in football. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're the best team in the national championship. You gave up 0 sacks all year, but people still look at him kind of like a project. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a project player that we need to hope he develops into something. The dude's monstrous. He's like just as big as Mailata. I think he was taller, but just not as big as him. And he's a stud, dude. He never gave up any freaking sacks. And I know it's college, but some of these all pros and the pros gave up sacks in college. He didn't give it. give up any sacks his senior year. How do you feel about Marquise Bell? Because obviously he's doing good. He's taking first team reps over Fred Johnson, who's another guy that we re-signed back to be that swing tackle. And he's already proven himself on the roster. He's played all right last year, but he's already taken first team reps away from him. So do you think people need to really wake up on him? And start giving him kind of the respect he deserves?
Well, I think a lot of people may look at Markel Bell and think at that size, at 6'9", the Eagles have not had someone like that until, I don't know if you remember King Dunlap in the early 2010s. And King Dunlap was a 7th round pick who ended up lasting in the league for several years. You don't usually see humans of this size. Now, Jordan Mailata, he had the size, but he had this rare athleticism to go with. And he had Jeff Stoutland and the Eagles who are willing to say, look, even though he's never played football before, we're going to mold him and develop him and give him time. And we see today is how he's a top-tier left tackle in the National Football League. But Markel Bell, the thing with him is I think it's great that you're seeing that he's taking reps at right tackle, he's taking reps at left tackle, and he's being able to, proficiently play on both sides of the line of scrimmage. But there's still going to be growing pains. There's still going to be things that he needs to learn. The fact that he has earned Lane's respect, where Lane has talked about, we've had rookies in the past who certainly did not have his work ethic. We didn't have rookies in the past who came in and were as talented as he were. The fact that he's earned that stamp of approval early on from Lane, I think goes to show a long way how much that he's being respected by doing the little things right now that you can do to earn that respect from your teammates before you go out in the field and get that playing time.
Yeah. How you feeling about Bell, Birds fan?
I like Bell a lot. He's a mauler. And with this new offense that we're running, we need somebody athletic, somebody like him. Of course, we need somebody. We know that we needed offensive linemen. You can't keep your offensive line forever. And basically, it was a great pick. And we all know that he's athletic. I mean, look at what Miami did. And it's always good to have a tackle where you can just run behind him. And that's what we do with Lane Johnson. That's why I'm so excited, is because I feel like Lane is coming back for a redemption year. And he's giving Bell all that he can give him. Just imagine like the wisdom and the knowledge that he's dropping on Bell right now. He's telling him all of his tricks, how to hold. He's telling him how to trip somebody up. He's telling him all the Micah Parkins. This is how I block Micah. This is what we did to Micah. He's a little guy. All you gotta do is put your hands on him. He likes to do this. So I like Bell. And that Miami team last year, if you look at how they ran the ball, they really depended on him a whole lot.
Yeah. What do you think about Cooper, Chris? Now Stoutland's out. From what we hear, he's doing a great job. But how do you think?
Look, Chris Cooper, he's played in the league. He's played at a high level in the league. He's been on some very good run-oriented offenses during his time with the Denver Broncos. So he understands the player's position, and he's coached this scheme before. So I think that certainly helps. He is someone who could speak the same language. I think the biggest thing, he understands where the players are coming from. He understands that it's a transition, but the biggest thing that you have to be encouraged by as a Birds fan is that the players have bought in, because very easily Lane from the start could have been like, nah, I've done it this way for, since 2013, being, coming in with Jeff Stoutland and being the 4th overall pick. Nah, I'm not going to change my stripes. Jordan Mailata, the way that these guys on the offensive line, Stoutland University, and professing how much that they respected and loved the coach, the man who Jeff Stoutland is, you could very easily see that maybe these guys aren't going to buy it. But the thing with NFL players is, if you have a coach that's going to show you something that's going to improve your game and make you better, they're willing to listen. And these guys have all bought in from day one. And again, you've heard every player on the offensive line tell the media how much they've looked at this type of offense in the past and thought what it would be like to play in it. And they've just all talked about the excitement of being able to run this kind of offense. And for the guys like Mailata and Lane Johnson, it's the fact that they're going to get help now, and they're not going to be left on an island with every single play, every time that they're facing the Micah Parsons. And, you can go down the list of all the top tier pass rushers they're going to see this season. They're not going to be left just one-on-one all the time, down in and down out. So I think the change in the scheme has certainly revitalized the players, knowing that it's going to benefit them has definitely encouraged them. And the fact that they're getting taught by someone who has coached the scheme, has played in the league, I think has gotten the players to buy in, which is the most important thing. And you're seeing the development out there on the field. We're seeing guys like, we can go down. If you really want to go down the list of the guys who have, showed at camp here, Drew Kendall has made strides here in year 2. Willie Lampkin, he may be listed as the third team center. He's going to be fun to watch on Saturday in Baltimore. You're talking about Markel Bell. We've talked about him and the progress that he's made. So there's a lot of young offensive linemen here who will have an opportunity. You look at someone like a Tyler Steen. I was talking with someone about this today with Tyler Steen. If Lane is possibly going to be leaving after this season, you're going to need to have some fixtures there along the offensive line. Tyler Steen is going to be coming up on his free agent year. This is going to be a big year for Tyler Steen. He's going to want to show out and show that he deserves to be treated in the same, BG, keep talking about these guys that want to have respect put on their name. He's someone who wants to go out there and say, I don't want to just be that other guy, that last wheel of this offensive line, because I'm playing with 4 Pro Bowl and all pro caliber players. I want to show that I deserve to be discussed in that same light, that same category as the Lane Johnsons, the Jordan Mailatas, the Landon Dickersons, and the Cam Jurgensens.
That's a fact. And Steve does really got to prove that. Because I'm still not 100% sold on Steve. Like, he played decent last year. I think he played good considering all the good players were hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like Lane went down, Landon went down. You had Jurgy playing hurt. Like, when those guys were hurt, I feel like he wasn't in a weak spot. But I don't feel like he still has like solidified where you can be like, okay, right guard for the Eagles, you don't have to worry about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a clear, that's a Pro Bowler. That's an all pro. You know what I'm saying? That he's still not there yet. And it's been a while. But, when you got Bectons, the Brooks, those guys that played guard, when they played, you knew that, what I'm saying, there's no question they're going to be in there. They're going to be solid. They're going to do their thing. So hopefully he does show up and show out this year. I did hear about Limke, whatever his name is. What's the name he said it? And Drew Kendall. Yep. Lampkin and Drew Kendall playing some good football too as well. So I think our offensive line is fine. Like, as long as those main 5 guys are healthy. I know. Did you hear anything about Jurgy? I heard he left the field from practice. I don't know if it's anything major or whatnot.
He was out there. He's out there today. So no, they have back in action. So that's the thing is, you want to say, well, if the 5 guys up front are good, well, you're going to have bumps and bruises. You're going to have nicks. You're going to need to have guys at the back and ready, guys like Fred Johnson, who has been a veteran, has started at both the tackle positions for this team. You're going to need guys like who's going to be those top interior linemen. They brought in Michael Jordan. Okay, it's funny when you hear a 6'6" guard and you start thinking, like, do we have the real Michael Jordan? Like, but he's a veteran guy who's played. He's a veteran guy who's played in the league, and he could give you solid reps, and that's the biggest thing. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets utilized throughout the preseason. Just, you want to start making sure who your top 5 are. Who your starting lineup is going to be. There's no question, debate, battles there. It's really about developing the young guys and finding out the depth and testing that throughout the course of this training camp and preseason to make sure that if one of those guys goes down, that things don't completely fall apart for this offensive line.
So you're pretty solid on it, though. You think they're going to be good this year? Go back to being one of the top offensive lines in the league?
If they stay healthy, yes. I don't think that's a question whatsoever. And I think even though it is a new scheme, it's a scheme that I do think accentuates their skill sets. Okay, it's going to stress the athleticism. It's going to stress the power. This is going to still be a very run-oriented offense. One of the things they worked on today at the end of practice, it was basically a seal the win scenario where the team had the ball late in the game. They just need to get a first down to put it away, and they're relying heavily on that run game. And Saquon Barkley's getting his yards, Tank Bigsby's getting his yards. The offensive line was out there doing the damage, setting the tone, creating space, and there's no tackling to the ground. Sometimes it's a little hard with practice to be able to tell how things are going, but you saw the space that the running backs had to operate with. This offensive line, this run game should get back to what we saw in 2024 as opposed to what it had last season where it just never really could get on track. And that was, I think, the injuries. I think that was then Saquon Barkley saying, I got to do more with my touches to make up for it. But he's getting hit in the backfield way too frequently. I definitely think that between the health and the scheme and what the identity of this team is going to be, I think that all lines up well to maximize the strength of this offensive line and to carry the way for the offense here in 2026.
You know me, Chris. We got to talk about my boy Hurts. My boy Hurts, man. Since day one, I told you, Chris, that he's a man. You know what I'm saying? We had years of people doubted it. But how do you feel about Jalen Hurts going into this sixth offense, with a sixth offensive coordinator? And for me, what I see in the highlights and what I see is he's happy again. He's playing football with joy again. And he looks a lot faster out there. How do you feel about Hurts going into this season?
Well, he lost some weight this offseason, so that obviously has helped his game from that standpoint. And he definitely does, I would agree, reflect that the joy that you're seeing out there on the field, and he's just enjoying everything so much more. To me, I think he's motivated to prove to people wrong. I think he hears what everyone says, your NFL top 100, your quarterback tiers, your quarterback rankings. I think, he certainly hears all that stuff and wants to say, look at my resume compared to pretty much 99% of those guys, like pretty much outside of Patrick Mahomes, who has the resume that Jalen Hurts has, okay?
So, and even that Patrick Mahomes, I guarantee he's going to be on the top 100 still, like higher.
No, he'll be in the top 5, if not.
But he didn't play good last year, or he finished the season. He didn't finish the season.
So to me, focusing on Jalen here, it's you see the willingness and you see the ability to once again adapt. And I think Vic Fangio noted today that all those offenses he previously worked under had some similarities to one another. Okay, different coordinators, different play callers, obviously, yes. But they all were similar in structure. This is vastly different than anything that he's been asked to do. And he has wholeheartedly accepted the challenge from the very start, motivated to show that basically he can do all these things that people say he can't do, the under center, the play action, the throwing over the middle of the field. We are seeing that time and time again here in training camp. And we're seeing him working with these young receivers, developing these young receivers. Again, I just think he's someone who is motivated beyond doubt to prove that he does belong in the conversation of the elite quarterbacks. And, he's someone that when the chips are down, he has proven that when the spotlight is the hottest, he's been able to shine. Okay. There's guys who have talent, but when you get them in a big time situation, they don't come through. That's not been the case with Jalen Hurts. You look at the best games of his career have been when the stakes have been the highest. So to me, he's embraced the new offense. He's been gelling with the new offensive coordinator, Sean Mannion. Obviously has a great relationship with Nick Sirianni and has done a really wonderful job of spending a lot of time this offseason with these young receivers. I know we're going to probably talk about Darius Cooper, but I mean, Jalen Hurts is a person who was starting the Darius Cooper hype train before it left the station. Okay. When he's going on doing an NFL Network interview and, calling him a freak out there on the field. What you're just seeing from Jalen Hurts, I think, is just the evolution of this is someone who is one of the best quarterbacks in the game, and he's got a new scheme to be able to highlight what he's able to do. And I think we're all going to be pleasantly surprised as Eagles fans at how he's going to be able to operate this offense this season.
Do you think it's old though, Chris? Is it old? Like, have we made it enough years? 2 Super Bowls, Super Bowl MVP, winning one. Playing great in both. Winning percentage being one of the highest in the league, like you say. He done beat every top quarterback that you say is better than him. You know what I'm saying? Do you think it's old to the point where it's time to stop talking about it? Like, he's a great quarterback. Like, he's top 5. I say number 1, but I guarantee if you want to do it, top 5 for sure, because if you're talking about winning, quarterback position has to do with winning too. You think about Joe Montana being one of the best quarterbacks of all time. He didn't have all the passing records and stuff. Joe Montana won football games. He's undefeated in Super Bowls. That's what made him so great. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people like these fantasy stat type quarterbacks out there, but none of those cats are winning Super Bowls. Allen's not won a Super Bowl. Lamar's not won a Super Bowl. Burrow's not won a Super Bowl. Herbert's not won a Super Bowl. Like, all these cats that they want to claim are better than Jalen Hurts still to this day has not won a Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl is a team sport, but it takes mentally strong quarterbacks to get you through the hump.
No question. Yeah. And he is the right quarterback for Philly because he can handle the adversity. He can handle the ups and downs. Not every quarterback can handle. When we go back to Donovan, and people talk about how, Donovan didn't shine in the biggest of moments, and, there's some evidence of that. But Donovan was a quarterback who really changed the trajectory of the franchise because he was able to handle the challenges of playing in Philadelphia that not everyone can. Okay. And then you go through this huge gulf from the end of McNabb's career until we get Doug Pearson and Nick Foles, until they can finally start winning again. And then you transition to Jalen Hurts, who just has the perfect vibe to be able to thrive in this city. He's the right quarterback for the city. He's the right quarterback for this team. And the thing is, even though he's won the Super Bowl, people say, well, it's because you had the offensive line. You had Saquon Barkley. It's always some excuse to kind of take away from the fact that he's won a Super Bowl and been a Super Bowl MVP and has played outstanding in 2 Super Bowls, including in a year where he was the runner-up to the MVP award. So to me, I don't think the conversation old, because I definitely think that out there, the conversation is still questioning whether it's, is he truly like this elite quarterback? I mean, he is a winning quarterback who can take a very good team and get it to the top. And that's what the Philadelphia Eagles have been. Howie Roseman has constructed a hell of a roster during his time in Philadelphia, especially with these last few draft classes, has made it. They were the only team to repeat as division champions last season. Certainly, that's not the end goal. The end goal, they want to win the Super Bowl. That's obviously become the hallmark for this team, is that not just to win championship, but championships, plural. But the fact that they've been able to have this run of success, 5 straight playoff appearances with Nick Sirianni, double-digit wins the last 4 seasons, the 2 trips to the Super Bowl, it's what more could you ask for from a quarterback? We are in the period of the greatest era of Eagles football. And who is your quarterback through it? Number 1, Jalen Hurts.
What are you going to give him, Chris? I'm always going to ask you every year, where is he at in your book?
He's the number 1 quarterback for the Eagles. That's all that matters. I don't really care about what it is around the league. It's, not everyone. To your point, though, people have more flashier fantasy football stats, this, that, and the other, but, they have not accomplished what Jalen Hurts has accomplished in his career. And he just turned 28.
Yeah.
He's still in the
young
prime of his career.
Young bud.
It's what's going to be very interesting with the new offense that Nick and Sean Mannion have put together. In 2022, when Jalen Hurts was a runner for MVP, his legs were a huge part of the offense. I'm interested to see, Vic Fangio points out he looks faster out there. Jalen Hurts has lost weight. He's the right frame of mind. Are we going to see the running element in his offense? I think that's one of the things that we're not going to really know this until the regular season. I still think it is going to be a part of the offense, but how much will it be a part of the offense? I think can definitely dictate how quickly the Eagles will be able to transition with this offense here in 2026. That's like the one element that I'm really intrigued to see with Jalen Hurts. So, but I think he's just had the right mindset all offseason. He's attacked it ferociously. You know, he's worked to study and master the playbook. He's worked to develop chemistry with the receivers. He has done everything the right way. He has shown why he is, you know, going to be, I think it's me, a fifth-year captain for this football team, if I'm correct. So, um, you know, just can't wait for the games to get here. So preseason starts Saturday, but you know, we all can't wait for September 13th when Washington comes to town with a quarterback who had one very outstanding rookie season, but still a lot of people will put ahead of Jalen Hurts when you look at these lists.
Yeah. And like for those people that I think doubt him in terms of getting carried, you got to realize one thing. Saquon Barkley had his best year with Jalen Hurts. He said Jalen Hurts makes him better. You know what I'm saying? He pulls linebackers away. He makes it his job a lot easier. A.J. Brown, even if you want to go A.J. Brown got better with Hurts. You know what I'm saying? Like all these cats that they want to say carried Hurts only played their best football with Hurts. You know what I'm saying? He made it possible for them to play their best seasons. So that's what I always say to the people. I'm like, oh, he got carried. It's like, no, he made that happen too. You got to give him his respect too. Like you said, that run game thing, though, that has to be back in action this year. You know what I'm saying? That is what makes him so great, the dual threatness. We don't need him being Donovan, trying to act like he doesn't want to be a dual threat quarterback no more. Do what you do that got you where you got to get. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's always good between 500 and 700 rushing yards, you know, a season. When he's gotten that, you know, we've been in the Super Bowls, you know, so he needs to get back to that. I'm happy he looks thinner or whatnot. And Jalen Hurts, man, I don't care what anybody says. Like, there's no arguments about it. He's already won enough games. He's already the best Eagles quarterback, like you said, of all time. Like, you can't even put no one ahead of him. And then, like, at the stake, like you said, he's young. He's definitely got a lot more to prove. I think this year's going to prove a lot. Do you think his passing numbers will go up this year, though? Because I feel like, you know, year 6 of starting, it's time for you to take that next step. We all looked at him as a 20 to 5, you know, passes a game type quarterback. Maybe now you go 30 passes a game, spread that ball out, and get them yards up.
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I still think it's going to be a very run-centric offense. There's going to be a lot of quick timing routes and throws over the middle of the field. So he certainly still has the deep ball. We've seen that element of it, but I think you're going to see a lot. I think one of the biggest challenges last season for this offense was the receivers, and everybody saw it. I'm not telling anyone anything new here. The receivers were asked to do so much one-on-one to create the separation themselves, to get themselves open. It just made things very difficult for Jalen Hurts, where he has to rely on, he's not getting any help from the scheme. He's going to get more help from the scheme. The receivers are going to get more help from the scheme this season. So you're going to see a lot more, I think, quick passes, timing routes, expecting more yards after the catch. So that's why we talk about, like, are the passing numbers going to be up per se? I'm like, I don't know. I think a lot of it's going to depend on how proficient the run game is. If the run game's rolling, and then you add in Jalen Hurts with the quick timing passes and maybe a deep shot here and there, I mean, I think it's going to be a pretty good formula with the defense that you have that's going to limit the ability for opposing offenses to generate a lot of points.
Well, let's get to these weapons here. First, before we get on this Darius Cooper rise, give me what you feel about how you feel about Mekhi Lemon. And is this injury stuff kind of hurting him right now, not being out on that football field, to the point where, you know, he got a lot of high expectations coming into the season. First-round draft pick. Last time we got a first-round draft pick was Devontae Smith. I love him. He's a USC boy. You know me. I love my USC Trojans. I love him. But I do think that this might be hindering, even though I said that I don't see him starting until like week 5, week 6 anyway. You know what I'm saying? Just no matter what, I just didn't feel like. I feel like Wicks comes from the same system. You know, he probably got a leg up on everybody out there to get it. He's been balling out in camp. And then you got a couple other guys, Hollywood Brown, and then our boy Cooper. But give me your Mekhi Lemon breakdown. Then who do you really think is going to really jump out and be the number 2 and number 3 receiver?
I mean, with Mekhi Lemon, look, until he gets on the field, there's not a whole lot to evaluate. obviously you can go off the college film and the projections and what you hope he's going to be, and certainly once he gets on the field, the Eagles are going to try to accelerate him to have him out there as fast as possible. That's just not the case right now. So this happened with Devontae Smith as a rookie, where he did suffer an injury, but what did he do? He was able to come back and ball out in week 1, scored a touchdown in his first game down in Atlanta, and he's taken off ever since. Now, you talk about Cooper. I'll talk about a Cooper on the defensive side of the ball, who 2 years ago had a hamstring injury that limited him in training camp, and he wasn't able to really make an impact until, about almost the midway point of the season, and then the defense really went up and took it to the next level. So I think time, really, until he gets on the field on a consistent basis, it's hard to say. It's hard to evaluate, but I will say that the depth, watching this group overall, the depth of the wide receiver position, okay, obviously you're losing some at the top because you don't have A.J. Brown, but the depth overall is much stronger than it was a year ago, because you talked about Wicks, you talked about Hollywood Brown, you have Darius Cooper, you have Elijah Moore, who's come in and made plays as well. I just think watching in the preseason, there was a noticeable drop, certainly after Devontae and A.J. Brown, and so it was like, Jahan Dotson and on, it was kind of like you were kind of questioning who was going to stand out from that pack. I just think there's better quality all the way down the wide receiver depth chart. All those guys have made plays at some point here throughout camp. Now, who's going to be the number 2, number 3? I mean, obviously you have Devontae Smith as your number 1. I would think Dontavian Wicks, for the fact that they traded for him, the skill set that he has. Nick Sirianni throwing out, one of his favorite players to talk about is Keenan Allen. And when he talked about Keenan Allen and compared Dontavian Wicks' route running to Keenan Allen, you're like, that's not like, he just doesn't shower anyone with that type of praise. Okay, so there's legitimate praise there. But Darius Cooper has just been consistent all throughout camp. And Jalen Hurts, I talked about the comments that he's made on NFL Network. He talked about today about the catch radius that he has, and that he uses that size, and he's not a big guy. He uses it to his advantage. That's just the biggest thing with him. It's just he's just taking advantage of the opportunity day in and day out. He wasn't expected to be, getting first team reps, because you figured you would have all these guys available to you. But with the injuries, the opportunity is there, and once again, he's capitalizing on it. So how this will translate throughout the course of the season, who knows? But the fact that you saw this from Darius Cooper last year and you're seeing it again is a very, very good sign. And the fact that he's just kind of taken right off where he left off. So, he's going to have a role in this offense, whether it's going to be the dirty work guy, whether it's going to be, as a focal point as a pass catcher, that remains to be seen. But Darius Cooper has certainly played his way to earning a spot on this football team. Hollywood Brown, who's a trusted veteran, who the thing is also, it's like these guys all have different elements. So everyone might say like, well, like with Elijah Moore making plays in practice, that's probably what Mekhi Lemon's role would be in this offense. So it's like you just kind of almost envision like, if Mekhi Lemon were out there, he'd be the one making all these plays, and he'd be the one, converting all these timing routes. He'd be the one building that rapport and getting on the same page with Jalen. And obviously you wish you were able to see it out there right now, but that's the case of where we're at right now. But I think the biggest thing is, Jalen talked about this today, is the importance of building that rapport with the guys down the depth chart, because you're going to have injuries throughout the course of the season. You're going to need these other guys to step up, and you want to be able to have the faith in them so that when the time comes, that you're not starting from square one. You're able to build off of some of the chemistry that you're building now. So again, I think it's a really well-rounded group right now. We'll see how things progress, but the fact that they're out there making plays right now, you don't have Smitty, who's your top guy. You don't have Mekhi Lemon, who you're expecting to have a big role in the offense. I think it's just very encouraging to see that you're seeing these other guys take advantage and step up in their absence.
Well, the two things I would say. Go ahead.
How do you feel about the tight ends right now, Chris?
I think they look good. So Dallas Goedert's been the trusty veteran of the group. Okay. And then when you're in your 12 personnel, it's been Johnny Munt has been your primary guy. Eli Stowers. It's interesting because in your opening video, one of the highlights of Stowers was like him coming on a wheel route, and we saw that in practice yesterday, him make a play like that, him being able to get in space. He had a nice catch in the flat today during a team period. The coaches are happy with the mental aspect of his game. I think it's just he's still young at the tight end position, and is still it's one of the
Right.
positions that is just it takes some time to transition. But you see the athleticism out there. You see the route running ability out there. I think it's just going to take time for him to put it together. Beyond that, you have Calcaterra's been the guy who he knows the offense. You pretty much have Dallas Goddard and Johnny Munt as your primary top two, and then the rest of the guys are still battling it out. And I'm just trying to think of some of the other guys here in the mix.
Well,
EJ
EJ
Jenkins,
White, right?
EJ Jenkins, who's been similar in some ways to Stowers, a guy who's very physical, is a physical specimen, a great athlete coming out of Georgia Tech.
We got Tonga too still.
What's that?
Tonga, was that his name? Tonga?
It's Cam Latu who the Eagles
Latu.
have. So Cam Latu was a former third-round pick of the Niners a couple years ago out of Alabama. He's flashed during his camp when he kind of changed his role. He took on like the fullback role last season. So he's trying to use that athleticism, and he's made plays at times here in camp. So good competition for those depth spots. But Dallas Goddard's been the trusty veteran of the group, and I think adding Johnny Munt is definitely something that this offense did not have a year ago. And certainly the coaching staff and Howie Roseman realized they needed someone of that ilk. They were going to be able to maximize this type of offense here in 2026.
Have we seen a fullback, Chris?
Yeah.
I know. Did we sign an actual fullback though? We signed one, right?
We signed one, but Carson Steele, but he's been pretty much a running back. We haven't really seen a whole lot of him as a fullback. So we have not seen a whole lot of the fullback. You're seeing more of the 12 personnel, the heavy packages. You're seeing more of that type of stuff instead of at this point, there's not been a whole lot involved in the fullback. So I don't think that the fullback is going to be coming back, even though some people say it's coming back in vogue. I don't know if it's going to be here in Philadelphia with Nick and Sean's offense here.
Let's jump over to this defense before we get out of here. Jalen Carter, 29th in the top 100, just signed a fat contract. Did you know he was getting re-signed the whole time? I was one of the guys out there pushing for Myles Garrett, pushing for Crosby, pushing for somebody to help these defensive ends out. But Howie didn't want to, all the deals, all the talks were going on. Whenever they said Jalen Carter, he squashed the deal. Do you think it was the right move from the Eagles? And what do you expect from Jalen Carter this year?
Well, the thing is, at the beginning of the offseason, they pretty much knew they were looking to sign both Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. And Jordan Davis got his deal early on, so a lot of people were kind of intrigued as to why was Jalen Carter not quite done. And I think it was because they knew that Jalen Carter's contract would reset the market, and it was just a matter of, did you want to reset the market in March? And Jalen Carter, I think, wanted to wait out and see where like Jeffrey Simmons and these other guys, some of these other contracts were coming up where they were going to fall in line at, to make sure that he was going to be rightfully in line to be paid at the top of his position. So this is one of those things where I think the Eagles were hoping to get it done or before the draft. It didn't. It's a unique player, a unique situation. That, again, he was going to be paid at the top of the market, but this is not something the Eagles were going to kick the can down the road because it's not going to get any cheaper. It's like once you recognize the talent and once you know that this is a guy that you want to be a part of your program for the long term, the Eagles are going to find a way to get it done. And you can pretty much go to every position on this roster, and they've found a way to make them, if not the highest paid, one of the highest paid, at least at the time. Now, the one downside to it is you're going to lose some guys in free agency because you're going to have to say, look, if we're going to pay all these guys at the top of the market, if we're going to have a first-round pick at this position, we're not going to be able to keep every single guy. There's going to need to be something to balance out the salary cap and the roster. So you're going to lose some guys there in the process. But to have we saw what Jalen Carter did in the Super Bowl run. The Rams game alone, right there in the playoffs, wrecked that final drive, made basically to the point where he just completely dominated that game in every facet. You go to the Super Bowl, and he was part of that wrecking crew that got to Patrick Mahomes, and pretty much made the offense look inoperable. Now he battled injury last season. He came in from training camp with a shoulder problem, was never right. You have the incident at the start of the season. His season just never got going. He was able to come back towards the end of the season. He just wasn't himself, but he completely got himself in the right frame of mind, the right shape, knowing that the Eagles were going to expect him to be, look, if you want to be paid to be the best, paid like the best, you got to come out and be the best. And we don't want flashes. They want down in, down out consistency. And you've seen that here in training camp, where he is a couple practices that he's ruining the offense's ability to move the ball just because he can get into the backfield at any time. So, Jalen Carter has just come in. Again, he gets the deal done. He's handled everything the right way. He's someone that this team obviously, earmarked as someone they want for the long term. And they're willing to pay the top of the market because you understand the next contract is going to just, that's going to beat that one. Quentin Williams came in shortly thereafter, and he got himself a big extension. There's going to be guys down the road that are going to need it. So the Eagles, what Harry Roseman and his team have done is they understand they're accumulating all this talent. They realize that for many years it was a very cap-heavy offensive side of the ball, where you're paying all those guys top-tier money. You look at the receiver position, you had both AJ getting paid, Devonta getting paid, the lineman getting paid, Jalen. They're all getting paid. It's now swinging to, you look at the defense where you got Jalen and Jordan. You brought in Grenard, with his contract. Zach Bond was a top-of-the-market deal. And they already know Q and Cooper are coming up next, and they're going to need to be ready to pay them. So, but Howie's like, look, they're going to get paid, because we want to make sure that if we draft and develop this talent, we're keeping it. We're not letting it get away. So when you have two premier players who are the best, again, to your point, BG, at the beginning of the show, they're first-team All-Pros. They're among the best of the best, at their positions in the game. They're going to want to keep them around because they embody what this team wants, on the field, off the field, the way they represent the franchise and the organization. Q and Coop have been two top-notch people, both on and off the field, for this team, who have been role models for how to do things the Eagles way, and they want to keep that going here for a long time. So it's exciting that Jalen Carter got his contract. The Eagles understand you just don't want drama going into camp. You do not want to go into camp with the presence of some kind of contract situation looming in the air and ruining the vibes of the team, because that stuff tends to just not work out. It just tends to.
You're right.
It's either from the player standpoint, or the player is not in the right frame of mind, so it affects him. It's just one of those things that the Eagles know it's better to avoid. So if you're able to, so the Eagles got everyone in. The only player that's not healthy is on that side of the ball that's really impacting you right now is Grenard. But Jalen Hunt has looked phenomenal in camp. Nolan Smith understands his situation, that he needs to step up, being a former first-round pick, and he's shown flashes, but now it's his time to put everything together. You got Moro Ojomo, who's a very good third defensive tackle, who would probably be a starter for just about, he'll be the top two on just about any other team. Okay, but Eagles have a unique situation here in Philadelphia because you have two quality, rare players there, with Jordan Davis, with his combination of size and athleticism, and Jalen Carter with the way that he can just wreck a game and just be a dominant bulldog, using the college mascot there for him, what he's able to do in the interior of that line.
But what you just said there, that was one of the reasons why I thought he could have been traded, because Moro Ojomo is developing. He even says he wants to be the best defensive tackle on his football team. He's going out there to make a statement. I know that he's in the contract year as well. And I feel like that defensive tackle room is a little bit deeper than the edges, man. We talk about Grenard being out right now. Like, do you feel like the Eagles' edges are good enough for the season? Like, is this something serious with him? Because that's one thing I always worry about when the Eagles go pay these guys, that 2 years prior had these big seasons. You know what I'm saying? And then last year they're hurt. They don't, or they have a down year. Then we go give him the money because we're going off the name and the lineage of his career. But you see him back already. He's already hurt again. Like, are you worried at all about the pass rushers on the end? Because you just said it. We got Jalen. I think Jalen's going to have an awesome year this year. Noah Smith, he better have an awesome year. He's going to be gone, I feel like. But then after that, you know, like real names, we don't really have any.
You got Epic Katie, who's a former top pick, who's adjusting to the system. AJ Epinesa has been a proven veteran in this league. He's made some plays here during camp. I'm happy with, and he's made a transition because he was a straight up defensive end who's now transitioning to his outside linebacker role. So I think if there was concern over Grenard and his long-term health, I think you maybe would see a move be made to kind of address it. But I don't think that's the case right now. And certainly the way that the defense has performed in camp to this point, I would say that it doesn't seem like that's the case. The guys have stepped up around. And again, there's just so much talent on that side of the ball between what you have at linebacker, between the interior of the line, that, I mean, it all kind of makes up for it. There have been several periods in this camp where you're in a 7-on-7 and there's just nowhere to go with the football. The quarterback has nowhere to go with the football, that, you know, he's settling for the quick pass over the middle or the guy in the flat because there's just nothing open down the field. So, so to me, yeah, I can understand the issue, but between the pressure getting up front with the defensive tackles, with the edge rushers they have, with the blitz ability, with Jihad Campbell looks so athletic and powerful out there. The way they're using
that's what I was going to ask about you next. How do you feel about him?
I mean, internally, you can tell they're expecting a huge leap from Jihad Campbell, that they're expecting him to be a premier player alongside Zach Bond. And Jeremiah Trotter's had a very good camp, too. That's the thing, is Jeremiah Trotter is savvy. He understands where to be. He's in the right position. He's tough. He's physical. Jeremiah Trotter brings a lot to this table that is definitely going to be welcomed by Vic Fangio. John Campbell has some rare athleticism. That's the thing. You see that explosiveness when you see him rushing the quarterback, getting his ability to cover. You know, he just has this unique athleticism that he brings to the position that makes him. That's why the Eagles used a first-round pick on it. Okay, and I think what's great for him is there was talk when he was drafted about whether he was going to be a hybrid, off-ball edge guy. They pretty much said, look, he's going to focus on off-ball linebacker. He's going to be an inside linebacker with Zach Bond, and we're going to utilize his skill set there and maximize that element. But that's the thing, is once he was drafted, you pretty much knew Nakobe Dean was not for long in Philadelphia. This is the whole thing about, if you're going to have a lot of top-of-the-market guys, if you have first-round draft picks, you got to sacrifice at certain spots. So,
but don't you think Campbell's more a Bond than a Dean in terms of linebackers? Do you think that this is setting up where Campbell's going to be replacing Bond and like maybe try to replacing Campbell as a Dean role in the future?
The thing I would say, it could be down the road, possible, but the way they are using Jihad Campbell as a blitzer is kind of like, they're trying to, because Nakobe Dean is an outstanding blitzing linebacker.
Yes.
So they're trying to say, okay, we're going to lose some of that with Nakobe, but we can do a lot of stuff with Jihad that Nakobe was unable to do. So I definitely think that's what they're looking at with this. And again, when you have Jeremiah Trotter as your potential third guy who's rotated in there with the two, very, very good trio. It's so amazing that you look at, and obviously a lot of it has to do with Vic Fangio's defense, the priority he places on the position. But you look at, you know, this team has gone for several years without having that quality play at linebacker. And it's basically, you almost had to go from Jeremiah Trotter's dad to Jeremiah Trotter Jr. to be able to bridge the gap there. But, you know, again, there's no weakness when you look at any of the positions on defense. And you may say, oh, well, what about safety? That's what I think people would say. They would say safety. Well, if you have Cooper and Makuba working your base, and then you got Marcus Epps and Michael Carter has played really well in this camp as well. I think they're sound. They're very sound there. It's one of those things where, like, there's not a dramatic weakness. It's not going to be something that's going to be, this is going to be their Achilles heel, so to speak, that's going to have any issues. Marcus Epps was a more than solid veteran coming back last season. Okay.
Yeah.
So you know what he's going to bring to defense. Again, you're taking advantage of on base downs where you're going to have Cooper out there at safety where you're using his skill set to his advantage. And then Michael Carter, someone who came in last year on a trade, and the Eagles love the versatility that he brought. And I think they want to maximize that by making sure, okay, he's getting more looks at safety. He can play a nickel and be your backup nickel if need be. I think he's gonna be the dime linebacker in this defense right as of right now. So, so there are definitely options for Vic Fangio to have, even though it's not it's the one position that you
Flashy
don't have
name.
that name. You don't have the flashy name there, so to speak.
Do you think Cooper ends up a safety?
Is he what?
You think, because people are like, oh, we got to keep him at corner, nickel corner, but he, like, safeties, remember Malcolm Jenkins? Like, safeties played nickel corner too. Do you think he end up, like, because how you going to come to pay him? You know what I'm saying? When it comes to pay time, are you paying him as if, because nickel corner don't probably make as much as a starting safety. You know what I'm saying? Like, or even a weapon on defense. Like, you think they just make his position safety after this year if he has a good year in that base?
I don't think so. It seems like Vic, in a perfect world, I think Vic wants to keep him as a nickel linebacker or nickel cornerback because I think that's where he's been the best. So the fact that, yes, can he play safety, and do you need him?
Didn't Malcolm come up when he played safety? Whenever we need him in nickel.
Malcolm was drafted as a cornerback and eventually transitioned back to safety, and then kind of played. He played like in the box linebacker. He played like everywhere in that defense. So it's a possibility, but it seems like that. But Malcolm was never as good a nickel as Cooper. Cooper is like the best nickel in football, and I think again because it is basically a starting position and is used. We talk about Cooper being a base safety. Well, how often is that going to be on the field? It may be
25-30%.
If that. So obviously, okay, you just want to find a way to keep him on the field, but I think his best role is what he's shown to this point is what he can do from the nickel cornerback position. And I think it's just so vital because Vic's defense wants to make sure that you're defending that middle of the field, especially with what you're seeing. How you're seeing these Shanahan, McVay, and hopefully soon we can say, Sirianni, Manning offenses, the way they're attacking the middle of the field, you got to make sure that you are strong there. Cooper DeJean being at the nickel helps you do that.
Like, you remember Brandon Boykins, right? He was the best nickel corner, but whenever they moved him either to outside, when he got that contract with Pittsburgh to move outside, he didn't play as well. You think that's the thing too, that maybe we can move him to the outside? I don't know. I'm just thinking of, like, if I was his agent, I'm not letting you sit there at nickel cornerback and that just be your end-all be-all position, because that's not a very profitable position. As opposed to starting corner or starting safety. Nickel cornerback still, it might be a starting position, but it's not like a high-paying starting position.
Well, that's what the agent and Howie got to work out. So,
who do you think is going to be the breakout player this year?
How has Woolen looked in camp? How has Woolen looked in camp?
Well, he has been good. So he flashed really early on, especially in the springtime, and because he was making the interceptions. The biggest thing is there's no question. Last year it was like, is it Adore? It was Keeley was at first, then it was Adore, and you never had like a sure like who was your like number two opposite of Q. You knew Q was your top corner. You knew Cooper was going to be your nickel, your safety, whatever role they were going to use him in. That other starting spot was kind of like the albatross. It was the elephant in the room. Who's going to play that role? And no one really separated themselves until really Adore kind of took it on during the season. There's no question. There's no competition here, in my estimation. Reek Walton has been the guy from day one. And the athleticism, you see it out there, the frame, the way he's able to cover. So it's going to be interesting because Q has played so well. That is going to be a situation where you're going to want someone who knows what to do with the football if it's going to be going away from Q all the time. And Reek Wallen knows and has shown that he's able to do damage with the ball in his hands and get the ball in his hands and to the ground. So I think that's the thing that's so comforting about the situation here going compared to last year is last year you felt very good about Q and Coop and you're hoping that someone would emerge. Now it's like, wow, you were able to add because you didn't sign Jalen Phillips to his long-term deal, and because some of these other guys maybe fell through the cracks, and all of a sudden Reek Woolen was probably expecting a, Trent McDuffie like top of the market type deal or something along those lines, and he didn't get anything along those lines. It's like, hey, you get a year here, you get a chance to prove yourself, you get a chance to kind of remake yourself. This is a guy who didn't have a ton of experience playing corner at UTSA. Gets drafted. So everyone's like, well, why do you last to the 5th round? Well, because it's like almost like a Markel Bell. Sometimes when you have someone with that size, you almost like, what do you do with them? Because you don't see guys that can move that well at 6'4", and he's like a legit 6'3", 6'4" type player. So to be able to have
like a Richard Sherman, huh?
But taller though. That's the thing. It's just he's so tall that it's like you don't see guys at that position like that. So, but he has the athleticism. He has the swag that he brings to the secondary. It's now just a matter of he just needs to be consistent. That's the biggest thing. And I think Vic in his press conference today kind of pointed that out. It's like you see the plays where you can see why he's top tier corner in the NFL, and there's times where he has a little bit of a lapse. But here's the thing: is you're probably gonna see a lot coming your way, a lot of action coming your way because of the fact that you've got Q and Coop at the other positions.
Give me one on each side of the ball, Chris. Who is the Eagles' biggest breakout player that no one's talking about on both sides of the ball?
This is the Eagles. I mean, everybody's getting talked about with these. We're talking about like third string offensive linemen here, so it's hard to put together who's going to be the on offense. I mean, to me, it's going to be one of the receivers. I mean, it's hard to say. If you could say Mekhi Lemons a breakout player. I mean, Dontavian Wicks is going to have every opportunity in this offense to really make a name for himself, and we've seen some of the flashes during camp. So, the fact that this was a guy who's played in the scheme is someone the Eagles targeted. The Eagles gave him an extension right up front. Like, he's got the size, he's got the athleticism, he got the route running ability. There's a lot to like about his game. So I think Dontavian Wicks would probably be the guy on offense, just because everyone else is very much established. And then let's say Jahad Campbell on defense. I mean, again, he had a chance to start early last season, kind of took a backseat when Nakobe came in. His growth was maybe stunted a little bit because of they were trying to use him as that hybrid off-ball edge player. So I think the Eagles have put a lot on his plate this offseason. I think they've expected him to take the next step. So I'll go him, because I was going to say I feel like Jalen Hunt would be the other guy, but he's kind of already like, maybe he's not.
I like how Jalen has skipped over Nolan Smith in terms of the depth chart. Like, he's putting in that work.
Jalen Hunt, Jalen Hunt to me has been the best pass rusher, edge player in camp. So it's now a question of, when Jonathan Grenard is healthy, how does the snap count distribute itself? So the fact that you're able to see this production and the defense playing well without Grenard, you're going to add him to the mix. So, breakout player, I'll go with John Campbell.
You know how you said earlier when we talked about AJ leaving, how everybody says it's down. Do you really feel like it's going to be a down at the number one receiver spot, or do you think Smitty's good enough to, he's always been good enough? Because I feel like Smitty's been the best receiver on our team the last 2 years. But do you think he's going to be able to, it's not really replace AJ, but make up, like really stand in that number one receiver role, as in like, hey, AJ's gone, but I've been here, I am a number one receiver. I dominate just as well as he does. That type of feel, because I feel like the whole league is kind of like, well, you guys took a step back at receiver, when I feel like Devontae Smith, going into this year for him, he's always been definitely last year for sure. But for the last 2 years, to me, he's been the better receiver on the football team. They've averaged about the same. If you look at their total career numbers together, they're not that make a difference between the two. I think we both know that either one of them leaving would make the other one better type thing, because the other one would get more targets. Do you think we finally get to full appreciation of Devontae Smith?
To me, I don't know if there are any other players on the team, maybe Cooper DeJean, that have a higher approval rating than Devonta Smith to begin with. Is there anyone, if you go to any Eagles fan, you can have debates over Jalen, you can go debates about most players, about how good or how respected they are. I feel like there's not the case in Philly with Devonta. Maybe from the league-wide perspective because he doesn't get the NFL top 100 or any of that type of stuff. But no one in Philadelphia, I think, has an underappreciation for the toughness, the playmaking ability, for what he's done for his offense since he's arrived, especially coming in with the pedigree, top 10 draft pick, Heisman Trophy, national champ, all that stuff, and being able to play to that level after that draft status. So to me, I mean, yeah, I think the offense is going to help him get a high volume of targets. I expect the offense to play well for him. I mean, I feel like similar to what you said, BG, I feel like the last couple of years I've been thinking it would not surprise me if Smitty had led the team in receptions, just because I would feel from a volume standpoint he might get more. Now AJ may get the more of the deep balls, the bigger down the field shots, and may end up with more yards, but it wouldn't have shocked me at all if you told me that Smitty would have out-caught AJ the last couple of years. And I think he actually did last season, but would have done so just because of what he can do from a route running ability. I just don't think that's been extenuated enough in the offense, and I feel like that's finally the time that it's going to happen. So again, you're not going to replace AJ obviously with one player, but that's why I think obviously you already have a number one player in Devonta, and then you have the depth that you have behind him. I think, along with the scheme that's going to help, Jalen Hurts get some easier throws, I think is going to help make up for the loss of having not having AJ there.
Like if Devontae, go ahead.
It's amazing how much muscle mass Smitty put on too. Just from last season to camp, he gained what? I know you get to see him up close. How much did he put on his frame? Is he bigger to take on the initial contact?
I haven't noticed it that he's that much bigger. I mean, he's someone who's always been dedicated to the craft. I mean, he's just not a guy that can put on a lot of mass. It's just he just has that body type. So
maybe more ripped.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing is, like, he is someone who is like an old soul where he's just very mature in terms of his preparation. He just came in this way from his development, the way he approaches the game, the work he puts into it. There's guys who say, I wish I knew earlier in my career about what I have to do to take care of my body, to be right, this, and that. That's never been the issue since day one with Devontae. So I think physically he can handle the grind. I mean, he missed a couple of games in the Super Bowl season because of a concussion. He's had a soft tissue injury here and there. He's missing a little bit of time right now, but again, he knows what he needs. We don't need to see Devontae Smith on the field during training camp. We know that he's a gamer. We know he's going to be ready for week one. We know what he can do. This is just a matter of him making sure that his body is, in tip-top shape for once the season comes around.
Okay.
And that's what I was going to say. Do you think it's going to be, with this new offense, first would be, do you think they need to play the preseason? And then second is, do you think they're going to play the preseason? Are they going to be the same like every year? We're going to use these joint practices at the end-all, be-all. You won't see nobody playing in the preseason games until the season starts. Or do you think with a new offense, we need to be playing in the preseasons?
Great question. I don't know. I really don't know. That's a conversation I was having with people on the sidelines today during practice. It remains to be seen. To me, I would probably lean in terms of what I think that they're going to do. I think they're going to use the approach of, we want the guys healthy for week one. They pride themselves on making sure that the guys are ready for the season, and that they're going to use those couple days next week in New England as, that's going to be your time to go against an outstanding football team, the defending AFC champions, very good defense. I feel like that for the most part, that's going to be it. But I could be wrong because of the fact of what you brought up, BG, in that you want to see these guys in some preseason action, just because, Sean Manning's going to be calling plays for the first time, all that stuff. But, I mean, we go back to last season. Kevin Patullo was first-time play caller, getting used to everything. They didn't do the stars in the preseason, but obviously there was kind of a continuation of the same scheme from what Kellen Moore had the year before.
Mm-hmm.
This is drastically different, but,
no Lemon, no Devontae either.
Yeah, right. They want to get the guys ready for week 1. This is a team that, look, Nick, whatever, say what you want, and this is the conversation that comes up every year. Why doesn't Coach Sirianni play guys in the preseason? Well, what do the Eagles do? They win every year in week 1 and set the tone right for the season. So he's doing something right. Does he stray from that? I don't know. That's a question I think a lot of us are having. And I think I'm sure it's a conversation that, Howie and the coaches are going to be having these next couple of days. But that's what remains to be seen, what they're going to do with the preseason, or if they're just going to use the joint practices next week in New England as like the true barometer for how ready they are for the season.
11-6, 14-3, 11-6, 14-3, 11-6. That's the records, It's first round of Super Bowl, Chris. We're in that 14-3 season. Are you feeling a better season for the Birds, record-wise? And do you think the Eagles have built another Super Bowl contender?
We will see.
That's it? That's all you got for me, guys? Come on, give me something, Chris. Give me something. Better than last year. Can you say that? A lot of people be like 10-6, 11-6. I've heard. I'm like, how are we worse than last year? Or how are we the same as last year? Off of the line being healthy alone makes us better than last year. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing I've said. The defense is going to be so good that the floor is going to be very high for this football team. And you look at the offense and the way the offense, this team was winning games scoring 14 points, 10 points, 16 points. In the year of our Lord 2025, in the year of these NFL offenses, the Eagles were, not scoring 20 points in the game, but still putting up an 11-6 record. Okay.
Yeah.
Every sign points to that this offense should be better here in 2026. Okay, from the talent standpoint, but you're adapting the new scheme. You're introducing a new scheme that Nick and Sean are bringing on. I'm sure there's going to be some peaks and valleys, especially early in the season as they're going to find their footing. Mm-hmm. But still, if the way that they've looked in camp and the approach that Jalen has had and the way that the run game has looked, the formula is all there for this team to be as good as they were in the Super Bowl year of 2024. When you pair that with an outstanding defense, it's just now. That's why I say we'll see, because they've just got to put it together. Everything is laid out for them. From a schedule standpoint to a talent standpoint, they get to open the season against Washington at home to set the tone right. Everything is there for them. They've just got to go out there and do it. But they've got to use these next couple of weeks to pair the roster, fine-tune things. We still have ways to go. It's going to be exciting this Saturday when they open the preseason, and then when they get to go to New England for the joint practices next week. So we are really, if you think about, it's like a week from now, we're going to know so much more about this football team between the preseason game and the joint practices that we'll have a better sense.
They're not going to show nothing in the preseason game, Chris. They're not going to show us nothing. They could probably run the KP offense in the preseason. We're going to be seeing KP out there, coming out just to call the plays for the preseason. You know how Nick is. He don't like showing nothing new, nothing at all. And it's smart. It's smart. Why would you want them to have tape before you start the season? You know what I'm saying? If we're going into a new offense, just like how we were going into a new offense the first year he came in, he showed us 0%, of what it was going to look like. And I feel like that's what he's probably going to do again this year. It's going to be a little more in preseason a little bit. And we're going to have to watch KP out there calling plays for the next 3 games. And then, once the regular season come out, we're going to start.
Then the regular season gets going here. So
Hey, thank you again, Chris. I know I'm gonna get you out of here. We out here. Salute to you, man, my guys. What else you gonna be doing before the preseason game? Anything fun coming up for you?
No, I mean, honestly, we're just locking it down and make sure you download the Eagles app. Again, if you're in the Philly market, you can watch the game. If you're, you can watch the game on NFL Plus. Just make sure you're following all of our social channels. We got the top-notch content taking you behind the scenes of the football team. We're just trying to do everything we can to get Eagles fans ready for the season and keep them connected here. So, no, appreciate you guys. Always enjoy the conversation, BJ. You always bring the best out of me. So, Byron, pleasure chopping up with you here. So, no, it's a good time getting this thing rolling here in training. Season's here. It's time.
Season's here, baby. You gonna see me, Chris. I'm gonna be down there, man. Now that I live here, I'm gonna be down there, Chris. You're gonna see me out there. All right, Chris. Well, you have a great night there, brother.
Good night.
Gentlemen, guys, go Birds.
Yes,
Go Birds.
Sir.
Yeah, man. It was good, man. That's good. Another good show. Shout out to Chris. You know, him doing that stuff with the NFL, man. I mean, the Eagles, man. He's doing a great job over there with the, media team and whatnot over there, man. How you feeling, man? That was a good show. I liked it.
Yeah, got a lot of, it's always good. Like he brought a lot of valuable information with that hands-on. Like he gets to see exactly what's going on. Hearing about Eli Stowers, like how he's coming along, it's going to be a growth curve. It's that learning curve with him. Because I was really worried about him, but hearing him say, like, you can see where the talent's there, where he's starting to make plays and it's all starting to make sense. That made me a lot more comfortable because you draft the tight end early to put him on the field. Like you don't just draft the tight end and say, oh, okay, this is a learn. No, we want him to be making plays right now. So that was, that gave me some clarity on that tight end position. What about you?
I thought his first year was going to be more like a Dallas Goedert first year too, where Dallas wasn't no superstar his first year when Ertz was still here. Ertz was still a man. Ertz was still out there doing his thing. You seen sprinkles of Goddard coming in, making plays here and there. And I kind of feel like that's what you're going to see from Stowers this year. You got Mudge who's going to be your focal, run blocking tight end. You got Goddard coming in, one of his last year's plan, He's going to go out there, try to ball out and do his thing. And then, like I said, he's still got Grant Calcaterra on the team who played pretty solidly when Goddard was out. And then a couple of these young bucks behind him. But I think they did draft Stowers to be the replacement. And I just feel like we're just blessed, dude. We're blessed, Look at our three main guys on this football team that we drafted, and they ain't really got to do nothing for a year,
You're right.
Lemon, you can come out. I hope you do come out and show up and show out and ball out. But guess what? It's not necessary. You still got Hollywood. You still got Epps. You still got Cooper. You know what I'm saying? You still got guys that have been around the league already out there balling. So next year, if you need to come out and be that main guy, you can be out there. Bell, Lane Johnson still got another year left. You know what I'm saying? Like, you still got a whole nother year before you have to be the starting, right tackle for this football team. So you got a year to wait, and Stowers waiting behind them. So I think everything's, working out for the best for this football team, man. The sky's the limit. I can't wait to get to that open practice to see him out in real life. It's going to be fun out there. Yeah, man, great show again. Salute to all you guys still watching with us. Hit that like, share this video wherever you're at. Share it. Share the content, man. We're making a movement this year. I will be down there, maybe practice tomorrow. One of these mornings I'm going to be down here either tomorrow or the next day. I'm going to be out there. So I'm going to check out these preseason games too as well. So be on the lookout for some content coming there. And that's all I got for you guys tonight, man.
Yes, sir.
So like we say at the end of our video, fly, Eagles, fly. And let's take a look at little Jalen Carter before we get up out of here.
Zero back in on fundamental.
Yep.
Power. You spin back.
Spin. Coach Marinelli, he was calling me every day. Make sure they're getting Jalen. Call him, let them know, get him in the building, sit down with him. And I did all those things, because Marinelli believed in him that much, and I was able to sit and watch the film.
Honestly, I thought we was going to take him, but Philly drafted him right before we had a draft pick.
This is the most talented football player in this draft class.
Damn it. Makes me sick that he's going there for sure. I can't believe we got to play him. Well,
That's crazy. They all wanted him. Yeah.